Imagine that the Great Wall of China, one of the 7 wonders of the world, was not built to protect China, as you might think. If you don't believe me, come and watch the movie The Great Wall, one of the action thriller movies released in 2016 that explains the real reason why the wall was built. It starts with the narrator who says, "The Great Wall of China, which we all know from when we were young, has maintained its position among the 7 wonders of the world for a very long time. But if you search about it, you will find that it was built for realistic reasons such as defending China and its people. And many people support this idea, as well as other mythical reasons. Of course, not everyone believes this story, but in this movie, we will tell you the legendary story. We see a group of armed people running after a smaller, weaker-looking group of people, all on horseback and armed, shooting 1 or 2 of the people in front of them with arrows and making them fall. The ones who are not injured continue on their way until they are far away. In the text, one of them says to the other, "Let our horses run away." And he says, "Just listen to the words," after the another one asked for the reason. Then, after they let the horses run away, they send up clouds of dust in the road, and the gang behind them runs after the dust, and they have already run the other way and hidden behind a huge rock. Then we see that they are safe. The night comes, and one of them is wounded, and someone says that some of our people have died again, and I got hurt. What we gonna do? We're just gonna keep doing what we're doing until when? I say we go back. They said, "Go back where, you idiot? The gangs are gonna kill us along the way. Why should we go back?" He said, "At least we have one goal here, but there we don't do anything." They said, "What goal? Our goal is a weapon that doesn't even exist." He said, "The weapon exists, the black powder exists, and it will get us what we want." They find a magnet, and William says, "I'll take it with me." They say, "That's unnecessary." He says, "I'll take it with me." They said, "It's not necessary." And he said, "It's not your business." Then William and Taver get up, and Taver says, "I think we should leave him injured and walk away." He says, "The last 2 times I was left injured, it was a bad thing." He says, "Bad thing for whom?" He says, "For the one who left me." And then, as they were talking, they felt a quick movement behind them and heard a scream. Then they heard another scream and found that their other friend had disappeared as well. So they went to get their weapons from the horses. Then they feel a quick movement around them, and they stand back to back so that they can keep an eye on the whole place and no one can sneak up on them. William senses the movement and swings his sword and hits something he can't see. Then we see him and Taver looking around for a hand, and he says, "What is this thing?" He says, "I don't know, but I know that I cut his hand off." Then William decides to take the hand with him, and Taver says, "Try to convince me. Why would you take it with you?" He says, "I want to find someone who can tell me what is this." They continue on their way until they meet the gang behind them, and they are tired of them. And William says, "Come on, let's take them to the highest point and kill them up there." And they run with the gang behind them without getting tired or exhausted, until they get to the point where they see soldiers with guns in front of them and the gang stays behind them, waiting them to come back. But they decide to surrender to the soldiers of the Great Wall of China. And William tells Taver to do like him and throw his weapon down, and then we see someone from the palace running and asking for Commander Lin. She goes to find William, tells Taver, "I'll kill the ones with guns, you kill the officers." He says, "Okay, but is it safe?" He says, "There's no other plan." Lin comes before they move and says, "Where did you find this?" They say, "What the hell? Do you understand English? We're in trouble." She says, "Answer me. Where did you found this?" He said, "He attacked us in about 2 days' walk from here, north of the wall." She said, "Then who did this to him?" They said, "We fought him." And William said, "I killed him alone." And no one believed that a single person could have killed such a creature. They were all terrified of his presence in the first place. They said, "No way, we don't believe it." He said, "I did it. I hit him with my sword and killed him." And then Lin says, "We have to kill them because they are liars and weirds, and we have to keep our secret as long as possible." And they say, "No, calm down. They seem like they are not lying. Or at least we can keep them alive." If we look at what they said and the sword with green blood on it, we can see that it maybe be true. Then a messenger comes and says, "Guys, the smoke signals are starting to appear in all the towers." They start running like crazy because the smoke signals mean that the movie's bad guys are coming, the Tao Te monsters. William and his buddy are in the cell, but they don't know it, so they take them over the wall and keep eye on them. When they come out, they see drums, smoke, and a huge number of soldiers dressed in red, blue, and black. They looked the place from the wall, and they were terrified and worried that they threw them over the wall. Then they knew that William killed a scout from the army attacking the wall, and we see them trying to understand the order or role of the colors in the soldiers' suits. They knew that black is the color of the infantry. Red is the color of the archers. They didn't know what the blue-colored ones are until they see things coming out from under the wall, and then they spread out like a woman's fan over the wall. Then we see the ones in blue are all women, wearing a ring and walking in front of the wall. They were all standing still and listening, and no one understood what they were listening for, until finally they heard a sound and saw the Tao Te monsters coming from far away. They came in terrifyingly large numbers, And then we see the commanders of the wall telling the people below to prepare long-range weapons. And then we see the people below the wall pouring black oil on the huge stones. Then they fire them and roll them up and hit them with catapults, and the stones would fall on the Tao Te and they would die from the blow. But the number is very large and difficult to kill them. When they get close enough, they are ordered the archers to start shooting arrows at them to get rid of them. After all that, they didn't die, and the Tao Te reached the end of the wall. We see the women in blue descending. Then they kill the Tao Te with a spear. But unfortunately, many of them are killed in this movement. William and his companion are sitting watching in silence and fear, not knowing their fate. Then William says, "Look what's going on over there." He looks over and sees a foreign man who speaks English like them and says, "Why he is free?" He says, "I don't know, but he must be our exit here. Focus on him." Then we find out that the Tao Te die when they are hit in the eye, and we find in the center of their army some Tao Tes who are much larger than normal and running towards the wall. We see that in the center of the Tao Te army there is the queen, who commands them all, and here they gives orders to the people on the wall to start preparing the queen's weapons. Then they bring out iron balls with sharpened iron spikes that are very harmful to hit the queen. And not only that, they throw them with oil that burns so that they can be ignited and hit the queen. But the queen's guards quickly protect her before anything happens to her. Then we see that the Tao Tai army is finally gaining the upper hand and they are attacking the soldiers. And Tovar says, "We have to move, because if we don't, we're going to die." William asks someone standing next to them to untie him quickly, and Tovar says, "We'll fight with them or run away." He says, "Do you think we have a choice?" They get free and start killing the Taudi, especially William because he is an excellent warrior, sniper, and marksman. Tovar starts pulling the Tauri towards him, and then William hits it in the eye and hit it with spear. Suddenly, the Ta Te Queen starts sending commands to her army to retreat, and they all start dragging their wounded soldiers away, as well as their dead ones. They don't leave any corpses behind, because the walled army doesn't know how to study their body or make use of them. The first round of the war is over, and William and Tovar don't know what will happen to them afterward, and the commanders of the entire army come to them. They said, "You have turned out to be brave men, and we are pleased that you stood with us fighting the enemy. We owe you with our lives." They said, "What are you going to do with us now?" He said, "We will honor you and let you rest for a while after your efforts with us." Then they take them to a separate underground room to rest and change, and the soldier who freed them thanks William for saving his life and that without him, he would have died in combat. Then we see Lin talking to the commander, and he says, "I taught you a lot of things, Lin, but they also learned. The Ta Tai are no longer the same. Unfortunately, they are very strong, and not the same ones we met 60 years ago, so take care and let the soldiers take care too." She said, "Don't worry, we will win, God." Then we see the foreigner is going to William and his sleeping companion. They say, "What do you want and we want to talk to you?" He says, "It's not the right time and place. We can meet at night and talk about whatever you want. I just want to tell you that there's a party honoring you, but otherwise, take a shower because you smell like shit." And William says, "We really smell like shit. How come we didn't smell it all this time?" The next day, we see them walking into the hall with the commanders and soldiers, all shaved and cleaned up, and everyone is applauding them. Then one of the soldiers comes to talk to him, and Lin translates and says, "Here is your bow. But why does a good archer like you use such a weak bow?" He said, "It's not weak. It's better than all your weapons because you don't have good weapons." And the whole room laughed at him. And the man said, "Go ahead and show us your skills." He said, "Here?" He said, "If you like." Then he says to Tovar, "Help me." Tovar says, "I'm here to eat." He says, "Go get a cup." Tovar goes to get a cup. William stands in his back, and Tovar throws it up. William spins quickly and hits it once, then twice. Then throws 2 arrows into the wall, and the cup falls between them as if someone had thrown it on purpose, and everyone claps for him. Tovar goes to eat because he's starving. Afterwards, Lin sits down to eat with William, and he says, "Where did you learn English?" She says, "From Ballard the foreigner. He taught me English and Latin." He says, "What's his role here?" She said, "It doesn't matter. He has to stay." She said, "You are a soldier for which country?" He said, "I was thrown into armies. I was thrown in the garbage, horse pigeons and beasts, and then I became a warrior. I fought to eat, and if I lived longer, I would still be fighting for money." She said, "I also grew up and found myself here, defending the wall." He said, "We are similar in many things. I fought under many other flags, but I have no affiliation except for my livelihood." She said, "No, we are not the same or similar at all. I fight for something more important than food and money." Then we see Ballard talking to Tovar, and Tovar says, "Tell us, what do you want from us, dude?" And Ballard says, "Come to me alone in my room and I'll show you and tell you everything. We're mostly here for the same reason." And then we see Lin take William and get up and go to the wall and asks him to come with her to the thing that's coming over the wall. And then she says, "Try it." And then she says, "Try it?" He says, if it's safe for them to pull me up, I will do it. And she says, you're thinking wrong. You should ask if the rope is already tied or if we're confident in pulling them up. We fight here with trust in each other, and she says, so are you gonna jump or you are scared? He looks down and sees the blood and corpses, and then he says, no, I'm not going to jump. You're right. We're not like each other. I don't trust anyone but myself, and that's what the world taught me. And he left her and walked away. Then we see him with Tovar and Ballard in Ballard's room, and he shows them the black powder and tells them that it's real and that he came looking for it, but he didn't know how to get away with it. He tells them that all the soldiers leave their positions during the attack. This is our only chance to escape from the other side of the wall, and I'll bring enough black powder to make us rich. One of the counselors sees them and says, what's this stone? They said, it's a magnet. He then told them that the stone has an invisible power that can immobilize the Tauti and separate them from the queen, and it will definitely help us. Then they told him, when did the Tautais appear and why? He said, a long time ago there was a very cruel emperor living in China. He made the whole of China messy, and suddenly the Tautai appeared and started showing up every 60 years so that we could think about what greed would do to us. If they get to the capital behind the wall with 2 million people, they will multiply, eat the population, and then destroy the world. And then we see Lin with the commander of the armies in the wall at night. We don't understand if they have news or if they're coming to hang out, but it looks like news because there's a whole force that hasn't signaled for a while. They find bodies, and one of the Tauti in front of them. They all stand in a group to protect each other, put shields in front of them, and advance towards him to kill him. But at the last moment, the commander finds in his sword the reflection of one behind him and turns around to kill him, only to find himself severely injured. They were trying to pull him before he died, and he called Lin and said, hey girl, you are now the hope of the wall in China. Take the command badge and beat the Tauti. I believe in you. And then he dies. And we see all the people are sad and the whole wall is grieving for him. They light a fire under a white cloth and it blows up like an ornament, but in such large numbers and along the wall that if you see it, it looks like a lighting flies. Then we see them all in the meeting room, discussing the plans and saying, what do we do now in this situation? And the counselor says, the magnet has been shown to have the ability to stop the Tauti. I think we could try to use it to kill or stop the queen. But the whole idea is that we're not sure if the power is there and we want to test it. They say, how do we test it? He says, I don't know. Then we see William tell them, I have an idea. I think we can catch one of them and try it out like we catch whales by hitting them with a spear that sticks into them and pulls them out. Tovar, realizing that William was thinking and fighting with them seriously and not just going along with it until they escaped, pulled him close and said, did you forget what we are here for? We're not going to get anything from this war, so we don't fight it. The next day, we see them all standing up and getting ready for war, and William is standing there, not knowing what to do, whether to walk away and look like a traitor or prefer to fight as his heart tells him to. In the meantime, Ballard was hurried because the soldiers left their positions, but Tovar wanted William to come and didn't want to leave without him. When the Tauti army began to strike, William did not know what to do, began to use black powder to open the wall and bring out huge knives to kill those who try to climb the wall. Then Ballard said to Tovar, let's go. What do you want from him? He said, I don't want him. I want his bow with us to protect us. Then we see William standing there, not knowing whether he's good or bad. Then they were trying to hit the Tauti with tranquilizer arrows to catch him. But each time they got away until William came and said, I'm not going to give him a chance. He's going to escape, so give him a chance to move with the arrow when he's already drugged. But the main thing is to protect him and separate him from the others. Then they found him fighting to get down, and William was still underneath to catch the Tauti that was anesthetized. And they surrounded the Tauti with a ring of fire so that William could find him and get out. He had arrows that would whistle when they move, and he would hit the Tauti with them. And when they ran at him again, he would know where they were. One of them was going to kill him. But then Tovar showed up and started fighting with him, and didn't let his friend die. And then we saw the people on the wall using the black powder, and defend William and Tovar and actually use it. But in the text, the force of the blast knocks William out, and in the meantime, they open a secret door in the wall from below to pull out the Tauti, William and his companion. William wakes up with a hand on his body, and the counselor treats him and says, where is my friend? They say, he is fine. Thank you for your help. Why did you jump down? He said, because trust is something you're fighting for, and I felt like I had to fight for it too. Then they go to try the magnet on the Tauti they arrested, and actually it worked out, and the Tautai couldn't move. The palace representative said, I'll take him to the capital, and they said, no, we need to study it. He told them that it was one of the emperor's orders that if Tauti was caught, he would be sent to the palace. They let him take it with him as he walked with a magnet in his cage. Then we see Tovar talking to William and saying, you are a criminal and a murderer, not a warrior or the Secretary General of the Chinese Wall. William raises his gun and Tovar says, yes, that what you are. You are not a warrior. We are going to leave at night, and with or without you, make up your mind." Then Tovar and Ballard get ready to leave. And Tovar says, "William won't come. Let's go." In the meantime, we see all the troops coming down the wall, and there's a big hole in it. Then we see Ballard opening tunnels and running from place to place with Tovar, and William sees them and decides to follow them, and one of the guards sees them and follows them as well. Then we see them arrive at an armored door, and Ballard uses dynamite and it doesn't pop. And Tovar says, "Is it not working?" Then Tovar gets close, but the explosion goes off, and he thanks God that he didn't get caught up in it. Then we see the troops find the hole underneath is huge, and realize that the Taudi have been distracting them to make a huge hole to cross the wall underneath. That's what they did, and now they're on their way to the capital, and it's going to be a total corruption. And then we see William in front of his friend, and he says, "Don't run away, brother. The people here need us more than the black powder." Tovar is still talking to him and trying to convince him. But then Ballard makes a nice move and goes to drops a few things from above were tied to a piece of wood from above. He says, "Is he dead, or is he still alive?" He says, "No, he's not dead. He needs something bigger and heavier to die. Let's go now." And then we see Lynn again, and she says, "How long until we get to the capital?" They said, 2 days of walking," she said, "and by balloon." They said, 6 hours, but it's not ready." They said, "Let's go with the balloons. We don't have much time. We'll get there with them. We try to do what we have to do to stop the massacre." Then we see Ballard and Tovar escaping over the wall into the desert again. And we see the Kot Ta Tai had arrived to the Emperor, who is a young boy, looks at him carefully, and they tell him that the magnet is controlling him, and we can't let him go. Then we see them in the palace, finding out what happened and arresting William, and Lynn tells him, "I would have killed you if I wasn't in charge." They are still debating how to kill him when the soldier who's saved by William shows up. He tells them that he was oppressed and tried to stop them, but they beat him. And then they say, "Fine, we won't kill him. Just lock him up and chase the other two with a squadron and bring them back with their treasures and black powder before they reveal the secret of the wall." Afterward, Ballard tells Tovar to go and search for their way. Then Ballard runs away and steals everything. I don't know how a thief can trust another thief. Then we see Lynn trying to use balloons with the soldiers to go to the capital, but the balloons keep falling and breaking, and a few of them fly away. Then we see the soldier who freed William and went to the wall to the Chancellor and told him what's going on. He said, "We failed to stop them, and they went to the capital." He said, "And where is Lynn?" He said, "She flew to the capital to try to do something." He said, "What hope do we have?" He said, "Well, if we kill the queen, we can stop them." He said, "Give me my gun, and I'll try to kill her." Then we see Ballard fall into the hands of the gang from the beginning of the movie, along with his horses and the material he has with him. Then we see the Emperor try to remove the magnet, which makes the Tawidi rise up and give a signal to the queen, who was running with her army in a certain direction. And when she heard the signal, she changed her direction to the capital. Then we see Ballard, and those with him don't know that this is the black powder, and they throw it into the fire, and there are huge explosions. And then we see Lynn as she arrives in the capital with her soldiers, and there are a lot of Coyotes. They start fighting and going left and right and trying to protect anything. But she was trapped, and she was going to die. But William goes after her, and after he saves her, they go to the Emperor. He says, "You are so late." They tell him about the plan, and that they need the toady. They locked in the cage for their plan. A few minutes later, we see Tovar walking with a horse belonging to the gang, and the soldiers of the wall catch him and the horse. The plan is to take the coyote underground, mine it with black powder, then give it food, take it to the queen to eat it, and set it on fire. They do this, and come out and approach the queen, but the coyote knows where they are, and William tries to shoot a fiery arrow, but the queen's guards stop him. He tries again, but this time they know where he is and attack him. And that's when he and Lynn move from the tower and magnetize them to open up their armor. Then they shoot the fiery arrow that ignites the black powder fuse and kills the queen. They all stopped moving, and the plan worked out. And then we see William going to Tovar in prison and telling him, "You look funny while you're locked up." Lynn said, "I can either take the black powder as much as I like and walk away, or I can take you and walk away. I will choose you." Then he goes out and finds Lynn coming to say goodbye to him, and they say romantic words that they can still have something between them, but in another time, not now. William picks up his friend and they walk away, with a guard to take them wherever they need to go so they don't chased by gangs again.